welcome. Hit the like button, hit the bell, hit subscribe. Thank you for listening. This is Joey. Let's get it on. I've been meaning to make this episode for a long time, but it's taken me a lot of thought and some research, and I really wanted to apply the proper amount of nuance to it so that I don't just end up spewing a bunch of shit that's my own personal feelings. This is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I know a lot of black folks probably wonder, but not a lot of black people sit back and really focus on to find out, right? And that question is, why does the black person coon? Why do we coon, right? And before I get into answering that question, we first have to ask the question, what is cooning? What does it mean to be a coon? Some people take that phrase and just write it off to mean sellout. Some people take it to mean a subservient, scared acting Negro around white folk, right? And then some people take the more absolute approach and say that a coon is a willing, active participant within white supremacy. They're an agent. Now, I may kind of differ on some of these opinions. I kind of feel like the answer is a little bit somewhere in the middle. But I do want to take a stab at defining what a coon is, while at the same time trying to explain, not excuse, explain and understand the mentality of a coon. Cooning is not something that is nonsensical or a sign of something someone has lost their mind. When you really think about it, in this environment, cooning is probably one of the most natural states of a black person and one that's most conducive to success. Cooning mantras and ideologies are expressed and regurgitated within black society all the time. We just don't know it. We don't think about it. But when I start to break down the belief system of a coon and why they think the way they think, you won't be able to help but to see overlap between a coon's mentality and the average black person's ideology and mentality. Right off the bat, a coon is most definitely a white supremacist. There's been a lot of misleading arguments that white supremacist means white extremist, and that a white supremacist can only be determined by specific racist, often violent actions and specific racist, often derogatory hate speech, right? Well, I don't know non-derogatory hate speech, but you know what I mean. When in reality, all that is required to be a white supremacist isn't even whiteness. It's simply the belief that white people are superior. And when you have that belief, when you have a belief system on anything, unless you're just completely full of shit in what you believe, when you have a belief system in something, it naturally walks you down a logical path to action and behavior. If you believed that women were untrustworthy and inferior and pointless, you would have a visceral reaction towards women in your everyday life. You could be an abusive husband. You could be chiding and disregarding of women in the workplace. You can be a bad dad to your daughters, right? It can show itself in a number of ways because that's what you believe, and your actions are based off of your belief. Your behavior is based on your belief, who you interact with. You don't have to be a Ku Klux Klan member wearing a white robe, carrying a gasoline-soaked cross to be a white supremacist. You don't even have to be white. All one needs to believe is that white people are superior. Once you believe that white people are superior, you go down a very logical path to you that says that, well, if white people are superior, white people should lead. White people should be in charge. White people shouldn't be talked back to. White people should be defended because they're doing a hard job trying to maintain this planet with all these dumb niggas around. Now let's take this a step further. If you believe that white people are superior, not only would you believe that white people should rule, but you would believe that a better life for you is based on proximity to whiteness. You're going to want to live as close as you can to white people. You're going to want to buy the things that white people find attractive. You're going to want to own these things because you're going to want to attract the acceptance and the respect of white people in your life, maybe even the adoration or the friendship of white people in your life. You covet relationships with white women or white men, not because you're even really physically attracted to them, but because you know that by you think in your mind, by dating that white person, you are dating white society. How many times do you see this with celebrities? Look at Joshua Jackson's wife. Look at how happy she feels because she's got a white man. A white man. Look at how happy she is to be accepted by white society. When these type of people talk about their white man, they don't even mention their white man. She don't even say Peter. She says white men. So when you see her excited to be married to a white man, she's thinking in her mind, she's married white men. Because if you can marry a white man, you could marry any white man. So I'm acceptable to white men. That's why she's excited. When you hear a nigga like Bernard Hopkins, the former boxer, talking about how happy he was to not only be next to all them white people in the room, but to be the only black man in the room. They want that exclusivity. They want to be the only black man in the room. Remember, they don't like niggers. They think niggers are inferior, just like white supremacists. They are white supremacists. So they get to be around all these superior people as how they see themselves, an inferior person. So it's seen as a step up to be near white people. And conversely, it's a reminder of their saddened state to constantly be around niggas. Right? So this is the ideology of a coon. And I hear people say a lot, all the time in the black community, well, no other groups do this. Why is it only black groups coon? Why is it only black groups coon? I would say this. I got two answers for that. Other groups do some soft shoeing. They do some tap dancing. But tap dancing is only like an element of cooning. It's not the essence of cooning. It's like how hip hop got different elements like graffiti and breakdancing and fashion and shit. It's not just about rap. It's DJing. Cooning has different elements too. Now, genuflecting and signifying, that's a part of it. But that's become so synonymous with cooning that to the untrained eye, you'll think that that's all the coon is. And if you don't catch a black person tap dancing with a ham sandwich in his mouth, you're going to not think that that's a coon. And that can be very dangerous. Some of the biggest coons in history were very dignified, very reserved people that you would never catch bucking their eyes or pursing their lips, right? These are just caricatures, over the top extreme caricatures we use to identify the most egregious coons. And I call that signifying and genuflecting, right? So you will catch other groups, other racial groups doing this heavy. You'll catch Hispanics playing up that beaner card in comedy and doing all these goofy self-deprecating jokes around white folks to make white people feel comfortable. The biggest non-black coons I've ever seen is Asians. Asians will sit there and play that, oh, so sorry, roll real heavy. And that ain't even really how they be talking. I got Chinese homies from the mainland that I've worked with for years. You ever catch one of these Chinese dudes talking on the phone, how they really talk? It'd be a whole different voice and everything. Nigga sounding like a boss on the phone. Oh, hey, Tony. Hi. Oh, hi, hi. Oh, hi. Did you catch Tony on the phone? Where? Nietzsche? No, talking bullshit. Hey, man, I better have my money coming off that boat. We're going to be problems. Like, damn, I didn't know that nigga got down like that. He's playing a role. When you coon, when you genuflect, you're going over the top to white folks to let them know how submissive you are. You're rolling on your back and exposing your belly to let them know. I mean, I'm not even thinking about having no problems with you out here, boss. This is all you. You the man. And any other groups of people you see in this country that are here on some immigrant status shit, that are just here to get their money, they're going to up front let the white man know, this your spot, pimp. It's all you, dog. You the big dog. It's your, hey, man, it's your world, bro. You start seeing all their teeth when the white person comes around. Hey, just making sure you're working hard, Pedro. Oh, yes, see. You see all that nigga's teeth. He's smiling. Oh, yes. He can't stand that white dude, but he knows he don't want to get that green card pulled. So yet other people do coon. They do genuflect. They do signify and start doing all that extra tap dancing and trying to impress white folk and all that kind of shit over the top. Other groups do be doing that. The element of cooning that you only see with black people, though, and this is where we get back into hardcore, heavy-duty professional cooning, right? The only thing that you see other black people do that you don't see any other group do that's specific to cooning is that other black people will distance and separate themselves from the group. That's the feeling you get that's different. You'll see other groups, you'll see Asians smiling in white dudes' faces and showing them all that teeth. But as soon as them white people sign whatever agreement to help Asians out on whatever, they go back and they take that shit back to Team China, Team Vietnamese, Team Japan. They'll sit there and play the role with white folks to break bread with them and to get a resource, to get some resources. And then it's right back to repping for your team on the low. Sometimes out in the obvious. Hey, we're going to take this back to Chinatown. We're going to take this back to Little Haiti. We're going to take this back to Little Saigon. When you see black people make it in politics, in business, in anything, that one nigga made it. That one nigga made it. As a matter of fact, the rest of black society ain't even mad. We just assume when a nigga made it, he about to be with them white folk. And it's like they go off into heaven. They never look back. And we associate, we know that's the norm because that's how it used to be during slavery when a nigga could pass, right? Shh, don't mess that up for Betsy. You know, she's real light. She's real light and she wished upon a star. She got hazel eyes. So don't mess. And when you see her walking down the street with her new white family, you better act like you don't know her. And you understood why back then. Betsy could get fucking killed. It come out she's a Negro, right? But nowadays, we've become so synonymous with that. We become so used to that over the years that it's just kind of known. It's kind of assumed. We train our kids. If you ever make it, don't look back at niggas. Separate yourself from niggas. The second you get some entertainer who's hot, they put a mic in that nigga's face. Hey, so what do you think about those other niggas? And they, I don't know them. You have to disassociate from niggas. Niggas are toxic to white narrative. The second you make it as a black person, they got a mic in your face telling you to look in the camera and say, you made it, why can't you? To negate what the rest of what black people are going through. You have to do that shit if you want to continue to make it. You're an endorsement for white supremacy if you make it as a black person. Because you're supposed to be there to negate what everybody else is talking about. Oh, there's so much racism going on, it's hard to get a job. Well, I got a job. You ever notice that a black person's answer back and retort for we is always I? You ever notice that? We're the only people that do that. Hey, you know, there's a black people are getting beat up and shot up by the police and we need to do something. Well, I ain't got shot by the cops today. I'm fine. There's actual niggas. There's actual real niggas in 2021 that was trying to kiss up to the police to get separated from other black people that was walking up in mid booty smooch who got shot and killed. and now their families, want niggas to march for them so they can get a bag. No. I'm not gonna march for this nigga. He got a goddamn Blue Lives Matter sticker on his car while he's bleeding out in front of his Impala. No, man. You're on your own, bro. But we can't sit back and act like cooning is in a vacuum. We train our kids, all of us train our kids coon edicts. We've been raised on cooning. If you've ever watched a single episode of Comic View growing up, just any black comedy, Def Comedy Jam, anything, there's hardly any black comedian. There's hardly a black comedian that didn't come out and bombard you with coon logic. Every joke is white people do this and black people do that. And the shit be funny. It'd be funny because these are professional comedians. It'd be funny. But every joke is telling you how you're not as good as white people. Even if the jokes involve white people being a little lame or not hip or something like that, he's still got a perfectly good life, good health, and a happy family. Your ass is living in dysfunction. And that's what every joke is about. How you ain't got the shit that they got. How your shit ain't as good. How your life ain't as good. How your family ain't as well put together. And you laugh and you yuck a buck and you huck it up. And deep down, it's killing you inside because can't no joke be funny to anybody unless they identify with the context of the joke. So you're really laughing to keep yourself from crying. You're really depressed about the condition you live in as an entire people. But you make these corny ass jokes about the shit to keep yourself from crying. But the whole while, you're not realizing that it's self-deprecating humor. And your brain subconsciously don't really decipher from sarcasm and jokes when they hear a word. So the whole while, you're telling yourself you're inferior. So anybody, if you're a white person and you hear all day long that blacks are inferior, you're not going to want to fuck with black people. If you're a Hispanic person and you hear all day long that blacks are inferior, you're not going to want to rock with black people. So what do you think happens if you're a young black person coming up and you hear all day long from your media, from your news, reinforced in everything you see in the economy and from your own people telling you and whispering in your ear and having little jokes that niggas ain't shit. We literally say as a mantra, niggas ain't shit. like, name me, when have you ever heard, ever, any other group that has a mantra like that about their people? The worst you'll ever hear from white women back in like the 80s was, oh, men are dogs. Remember that? Men, oh, guys are dogs. And even that, it doesn't say white men are dogs. It says men are dogs. They have problems with their men. Boys will be boys, blah, 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 bullshit. Fine. Right? The white men will say things like, women can't live with them, can't live without them. Right? It's just basic que sera shit to express their frustration. Black folks, niggas ain't shit. like white people didn't even invent that. Think about that for a second. We'll hang them. We'll kill them. We'll burn their kids down at the church. But I wouldn't go as far as to say they're not shit. I mean, that's just mean. I don't want to hurt people's feelings now. Even a card-carrying goddamn Alabama Night Rider wouldn't take shit that far, right? Clearly we meant something to them if they're shipping niggas from across the ocean, right? Like, clearly we meant something. So I don't like the phrase Black Lives Matter. Like, if you told a slave master Black Lives Matter back there, you damn right they do. You know how expensive the insurance is on a nigga? Oh, yeah, that's what you meant. You got to be specific. But you hear all day long, reinforced by everything that is influential to a person that could ever be, you hear all day long that niggas ain't shit. So why would you be surprised that niggas, like everybody else who gets this programming, don't like black people? That's an inevitable conclusion, right? Look at the opinion that black people are fed of black people. Black people think that any demographic within black people that's not their specific demographic is bad. Older black people think that their kids, like the kid that's in their room, in their house, they think that nigga is a monster. They'll see some black kid get shot by the cops on TV. That's the exact age. Like, think about this for a second. Any other group of people will see some kid get shot by the cops or something, or get brutalized out in the street, or something horrible will happen to them, and they'll go and there's a mass shooting in a white area. Like, think about this. No one ever says this. Mass shootings happen in white areas. Niggas don't have mass shootings. Niggas have drive-bys. But even in a drive-by, you might get a couple of bystanders to get hit, but the nigga who gets shot is the nigga that was talking that shit. 9 times out of 10. It's usually self-contained bullshit, right? White folks will have mass shootings where somebody will just lose their job or lose their mind or who knows, and just start shooting everybody. And life will just go on like normal. They'll tell you that's just the risk you got to take being free, right? You could be somewhere white. You could be at a country music concert in Nevada, and all of a sudden some nut job from a hotel is letting off 500 plus rounds on you where there's nowhere to run with a highly, highly penetrative rifle cartridge, right? Whole Las Vegas scene shut down for 3 days. And life goes on. Let niggas do something like that. That'd have been pinned on. They don't even talk about that Vegas shooting no more. You can be somewhere white and a shooting go down like that. And what do people say when those mass shootings happen in those schools and stuff? Then white people be like, oh, that child was young enough to be my son. My son's that age. Oh my God, it could happen to him. Even when they look at the mass shooter, the mass shooter be crazy as shit. He got a bunch of Nazi tags and flags and tattoos and shit. He got the Heil Hitler sign in this picture, and they'll be like, what could have happened to that boy to break him like that, to make him... Niggas can hear about a black dude getting shot in his garage for sitting in his garage. And niggas will be like, I heard he said he liked white women on his Twitter account. We don't give a shit. Older black people be hearing about young black people getting shot up by the cops, tortured and forced confessions in Chicago, secret torture chambers that the police had that were off-record black sites. Niggas will hear all that shit and be like, see, you can't be talking back to the police. See, you kids today, but your pants sagging and y'all drinking that lean. You'll be completely out of touch with your own people. When it was you getting your ass beat in the 60s, it was no justice, no peace. Now that you're seeing the same niggas get beat up in 4K, now all of a sudden, well, y'all can't be talking back to the police. You know, talking like that curries favor with white society. Most of the time when you hear black people spouting opinions, I'm just keeping it real, you ain't even really spouting your opinion. That ain't even how you even feel. You can hear by the tone of how they say the shit. They're asking the shit because they're saying it with the question mark at the end. They're saying it and looking over at the nearest white person to see if they can read the approval on their face. I think that all lives matter. No. Blue lives matter. Yo, yeah, that made him smile. I like blue lives matter. Fuck all lives. That's how you niggas get down. Your opinions are created. Like, let's just be real for a second. The real reason why black people coon, the real reason why black people distance themselves and disrespect other black people in public is to let white folk know which team they on. Black people understand one thing about black people, and this is what everybody understands about black people. For the most part, and remember, I'm saying for the most part, so there's the asterisk by this. I don't want you to feel like I'm being hopeless. For the most part, in most situations, black people are inconsequential to the average black person's everyday life. Full stop. That's why black people don't respect each other. It's because odds are ain't no black person signing your checks. odds are ain't no black person in charge of where you live. Odds are can't no black person open up no real opportunities for you like that that'll have a negative or positive effect on your life. The average black person's sphere of influence over you usually doesn't go much further past could potentially beat your ass or kill you. That's where all our respect lies. Can this, like Martin Lawrence said, can you whoop my ass? Oh, you can? Oh, okay. I better respect that nigga then. That's where respect comes from with black people. It's can you beat my ass? Because you don't have any power, wealth, or influence over me. You're another nigga just like me. You got the same socioeconomical blocks that I got. You're only going to get, and I'm not saying this is reality or fact or logical. I'm saying this is how these niggas think. They don't got to worry about you being offended. Like, think about the stuff people say. Think about the stuff black people say on air that's disrespectful and offensive to black people. You don't got to worry about no black group canceling you or no black group having no. The only time you got to worry about when you say something is when a group that got some power and some sway gets offended. Look at Nick Cannon almost lost his whole career wilding out, his radio show, Good Morning America, Dancing with the Stars and all that shit over what he said about Jews. Look at the bullshit people say about niggas every day. And all you can do is be mad, right? The only time somebody loses their job or something is when they say something so over the top and so egregious that it makes the company look bad. You didn't actually said the N-word on the air, or you got a noose in your hand. Now they got to come out and go, yeah, this doesn't reflect the values of Long John Silver, and they separate from you. That's it. But don't know black people got no power to be like, look, man, we're going to quit watching your show. Nigga, we're gonna pull the plug on you being the host of First Take. Like, no, we don't got that kind of power like that. And niggas know that. So niggas know where the value of being black comes from. The value of being black, if everybody black is saying one thing that white folks don't want you to say, then the value in being black is to be able to be that black person that'll say the shit white folks want you to say. They'll put you up on every platform. Your voice will be shouted over all other black people. Cooning works. If you want to be a successful black person, sell out the rest of black society. That's been the way to be a successful black person for time immemorial. It's since slavery. The nigga who used to tell and snitch on the rest of the slaves about when the escape was going to happen, he never got his comeuppance. It ain't like the other slaves whooped his ass. Jeffrey over there talking all the goddamn time, whoop his ass. No. Jeffrey got the best plate that night. Jeffrey got a pat on the head from white folk. White folk walking in. Oh, Jeffrey, a good boy. He's a good boy. Hey, Jeffrey, what's going on today? He gets to talk to white people. Within the system of white supremacy, selling out other black people, meritorious manumission, you will be rewarded immediately. They might even start to fucking like you. Till a new, better coon comes along, and then you realize you're just a toy. You're just a tool. But that comes later. Towards the beginning of the product life cycle, being a coon is awesome. You ever see how much fun Tim Scott's having up there? Look at Candace Owens. She's having a ball. Yeah, freshly minted coons have a dandy of a time. You got to look at the coons at the end of their product life cycle to see the fate of a coon. But coons are very, very short-sighted. They're not thinking about Omarosa. They hear about Omarosas. They hear about the Larry Elders. They start to see what happens to Roland Martin. You see the other end of that churn. You see where the toilet water goes. The average coon is going to think, that ain't going to be me. That ain't going to be me. It's going to be you. Coon ideology is practiced all throughout black society. Black folks is constant. Be 5 minutes late with a nigga and hear CPT time. I went to go meet my father-in-law one time somewhere and wasn't even nothing going wrong, wasn't even late. He just randomly told me, said, black folks can't stand black folks so much. We use positive black news to reinforce that niggas ain't shit. Let one black person make it in something, right? He was telling me how this black person was successful in something, or they just opened a store or something. Now we could have just enjoyed that moment. Hey, black man won. Great. Nigga leaned over to me and said, see, it's not colorism, it's niggerism. And I told him, I said, hey, man, now if you closed your eyes and heard this conversation, would you think two black men are having it, or would you think two white people are having it? He couldn't even answer the damn question. You know what the question is implying. You sound like an Uncle Tom. You sound, not even Uncle Tom, you sound like a Sambo. You can't just be happy that that one nigga won. See, whenever a black person wins, whenever a white person wins, whenever a Hispanic person wins, an Asian person wins, they dedicate that honor of that victory to their people. They know that all the people that went through the struggle together, they know that all your people are the only ones watching you and genuinely cheering for you to win. And you want to do that thing to prove your people can do it, right? It's an accomplishment for your people. Look at Andy Ruiz, the boxer, when he knocked out Anthony Joshua. What was the first thing he said? This dude is raised in L.A. He's raised in America, born and raised in America. First question they ask him, hey, so how do you feel about this victory? I dedicate this victory entirely to me being a Mexican and to the people of Mexico. This is brown pride, brother. We did this. I'm the first Mexican American to blah, 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 blah. Same with the Asians. Even the Africans. You know the whites, they're going to all of a sudden become Irish or all of a sudden become Italian or Welsh or some shit. They're going to bring it back to their crew. What do niggas do? Niggas don't even want to mention niggas. Who's that black wrestler? The black female wrestler who won a gold medal? You the first black female wrestler ever to win that shit. You come from damn middle of the projects, right? Don't talk about my race. Don't talk about me being black. Like we can't see your black ass being extra black all in front of us like this. If you would have went and smoked some crack or dropped your drawers for somebody and got arrested, best believe they'd have been talking about black woman caught doing black woman things, right? Divine Brown can't say, don't talk about my race. They had her ass on blast. But as soon as a nigga make it, they don't want to be associated with the rest of us because we're controversial. They want to sit back and have wine tastings with white folks. They don't want to deal with this shit. Becoming successful as a black person means leaving the rest of black society in the dust. Not even associating with us when you see us. That's why the black person at the corporate job acts funny. You can't look to another black person. Most black people that work somewhere, most white people you see working got the job because they knew somebody at the job. That's why white folks are always talking about, it's not what you know, it's who you know. They know somebody at the job. That's how they operate. Same with the Asians. If you see one or two Asian dudes working at a job all of a sudden, come back in 3 months, you're going to see 3 or 4, 5 or 6. Because they're telling people, hey, man, it's hitting over here. Come over here. I know you do so-and-so. You see some Latinos somewhere, they get on, they coming back with their cousins. You're going to hear that whistle. They're going to come back with their cousins because it's hitting over here. You see a black person working somewhere or a black person on an opportunity, that's going to be the only nigga you see for 20 years. Oh, there's been other black people that applied. He's told them they're not hiring. He's told them, man, just go apply, man. Just man, I'll look out for your name, and then hid the name at the bottom of the stack because that black person sees any other black person getting on as a potential threat to them and their position. When a black person finds a lick, he ain't telling no other niggas what's up. Maybe a homeboy or two. And he ain't going to tell them how. He's going to tell them enough to let them know he getting money. That's how we operate. We don't see ourselves as an entity because we've been trained not to associate with ourselves. That's not some shit that we just have in our mentality because we ain't shit. That's something we've been trained to do as a people here in this country. We've been trained not to see ourselves as Black American. We've been trained to just see ourselves as what other group we can combine with. like 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 tofu. When you see niggas coming up, you know what older black men love to say about their own kids? Ain't nobody ever told me nothing. Meaning nobody passed knowledge on to me as I was coming up. So I'm going to continue that cycle with my own children by not passing on knowledge to them. I'm going to withhold information from them so that I'll be more successful than them. That's like actual retarded logic. But it doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from that black parent sees his black kids, unbeknownst to him, as those little niggers, like a white person would. He don't see his kids, as his seed, as his legacy, as something he wants to invest in. He sees those black kids as something to compete with, them thugs out there on the corner. Listen to how black people talk about each other, and you'll understand there's a serious wedge between us to where we black people see our own black people with white people's eyes. That's why you get a congressional black caucus that makes rulings that are almost like the Klan against young black people. This is why you hear black women saying crazy things about black men and how black men are so detrimental, and then be the main ones crying when the police show up and kill our black asses. Why you keep killing us? Bitch, you told me he's the most dangerous thing to you since high blood pressure. You told me he's a monster. There's a video up right now. I want to do a special segment on it where this woman gets her husband ganked up by the police, tased, tried to ask them to get the dog and all this shit. This nigga's not fighting. This nigga's not combative. She just wants him gone. But let that cop have gone too far and blew that man's brains out or choked him to death, or the dog would have bit that man's jugular or he bleed out or something. Guess who would have got the bag from a Black Lives Matter protest? It'd have been that bitch. We don't really see ourselves. It's part of coming up and being successful as a black person to separate yourself from black people. Let's take a person like Mike Tyson, for example. Mike Tyson, I remember off the top of my head, believe it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half, maybe two, I don't know. Mike Tyson was lamenting in a magazine how his kids are never with black people. His daughters always got white boyfriends and Asian boyfriends. His son always got white girls and Asian women. They don't have any black friends. They don't live on the black side of town, and they don't really like to associate with black people. When they talk about black people, it sounds negative like a white person. And I believe he was even talking about it on his show, on his podcast, about how he just didn't understand why his kids don't like black people. His black kids don't like being black. And then he was talking on another subject about his daughter not being able to find a husband or something like that. And African comedian Michael Blackson, you know, the nigga that was tripping in Pinky's CD store about how he couldn't get jiggy with this shit. Michael Blackson, you know that nigga, comedian. He does some inappropriate comedian shit and starts trying to make passes through Mike Tyson at Mike Tyson's daughter, right? She's an of age one. She's a grown woman, but still inappropriate, right? Now, you would expect Mike Tyson to flash on this nigga. That's fine. But go look at the tweets he sent this dude. Every tweet he said about Michael Blackson, not a single tweet was, nigga, how dare you come at me about my daughter? Nigga, who are you? Nigga, not a single tweet was like that. Every tweet was about how black Michael Blackson was. You black ass nigga, I should beat the black off you, you tar black. But so in one breath, and I swear to you, I'm not making this up, I'm willing to bet that the incidents From him complaining about how he doesn't know why his kids don't like black people and don't like identifying as black, to the moment where he cusses out Michael Blackson for being black, right? I swear those incidents were a few months apart, if even a month. Now, I know Mike Tyson is a former heavyweight champ. He's a boxer, and, he's took some hits to the head and shit. But how do you not realize that, man, nigga, that's why your kids don't like being black or identifying with being black. It's because you, their father, who they look up to, associates blackness with ugly. And it's not even just the color black or how black, although that does indicate degree. Black people like to act like we had the black and I'm proud era, and then all that fried, dyed, laid to the side shit just went away. Right? Right? Or like we don't talk about CP time and all that shit. That's niggas do that. Niggas got more nigga jokes than any other race got nigga jokes. And everybody got a lot of nigga jokes. We do that shit to try to fit in with other people against our own people. Every time a black person thinks that they're doing something special, the first thing come out their mouth, I ain't like these other niggas. I ain't no lazy nigga like these other niggas. Always trying to separate yourself from what you think being a black person represents. Look at Chris Rock. In 2021, we have the option now to look at how many people are liking and agreeing when somebody says something, to get an indicator of whether or not, hey, this is a populist opinion, or this is a controversial or unpopular opinion, right? You can look at somebody's comment section and their likes to dislikes and tell whether or not this is a hot topic or not. But a few years ago, you had to let things go through the grapevine for a little bit first. So you wouldn't get an exact reaction. You might get a positive reaction first and then a negative reaction. And people who remember this know exactly what I'm going towards. But Chris Rock's ass, when he made Black People versus Niggas. Chris Rock had a skit called Black People versus Niggas, in which he attempted to separate himself. Separate this imaginary upper crust of black people from niggers, right? This imaginary evildoer black. Y'all remember when the Smurfs, like niggers are like the purple Smurf, right? The ones that just go canap, canap, canap and bite people on the ass. Like, we're not regular people. The niggers, right? The dregs. And this is Chris Rock. This is how the joke started off. Who's more racist, white people or black people? Black people, because black people hate niggas too. Trying to find camaraderie and common ground with racist white folk by saying you hate niggas too. But the reason why I mentioned how you have to back in the day, you had to let it go through the rounds and let it go through the grapevine, is because what initially happened was, when you listen to the first recording of Black People versus Niggas on Chris Rock's comedy special, right? When you listen to that recording, it's a mostly black audience and you don't hear anything but cheers and hoots and hollering from black people about how much black people hate niggas, right? Fee, fi, fo, figure, boy, I hate a nigga, right? Talking about how he wished he could join the Ku Klux Klan, right? How much he hates niggas. Initially, all the HBCU, Bill Cosby black folks loved that skit at first. But then what happened? It started making its way through the rest of society, through dominant society. And it's a funny thing, when you shit on your own people, it gives a signal to everybody that they can shit on your people. So what did you start seeing? You started seeing white people watching Black People versus Niggas. And white people openly laughing at how much they hate niggas. Not realizing you gave these people a green light to be open in their hatred of niggas. If you hate niggers, how can you blame us for hating niggers? Once you start going down that logical slope, now you're asking, well, shit, if you hate niggers, how do you think we're going to deal with niggers? Black people stop finding it so goddamn funny all of a sudden. And Chris Rock got moved by niggas. He got moved by niggas to remove that shit. Because you realized, idiot, you're giving these folks a green light. Again, if you would have heard that skit, if you would have closed your eyes and heard that skit from a white man, the shit wouldn't have been funny at all. So then you hear that. See, people, young people coming up probably don't even remember he made that skit because he removed it from his comedy hours. Rightfully so, might I add. But when you hear that and you understand Chris Rock, you understand why decades later, when he's sitting in a room with Louis C.K. and a bunch of other corny white boy comedians, when he's sitting in a room with Louis C.K. and all them, and they're openly saying, I say nigger in my skits, he's not saying shit. One, because Chris Rock is a little bitch, right? We've all seen Everybody Hates Chris. He be letting the big white bully punk him and shit. One, because he's a little bitch, and Louis C.K. is like 6'4", right? And he's scared and intimidated physically. But two, because that he feels like when those white folks are in the room talking about niggers, they're not talking about him. He thinks he's Sammy Davis Jr. He thinks he's in the club with them white folks. So when they're talking about, oh yeah, we need to kill all these niggers, he's thinking, yeah, not me, because I'm one of the good ones. Becoming successful as a black person is synonymous with separating yourself from the rest of black society and not seeing yourself as a black person. This is why when they broke into OJ's house, he's like, all these niggers. OJ was mad that there was a black cop in his room. What the hell is that nigger cop doing in here? They think in their mind, yeah, I'm black, but my talents have allowed me to transcend my niggerdom to white people. Black people versus niggas. But when white folks is in the room calling all niggas, you ain't got the heart to say nothing, Chris Rock. You got to let motherfucking Jerry Seinfeld nut up and say, I don't be saying that shit. Jerry Seinfeld had to be the one nigga to speak. You the only black nigga in the room. Eddie Griffin would fucking never, right? But then niggas like Chris Rock get selected to be the people who speak on our social ills and shit. Chris Rock, the goddamn comedian who is a self-admitted nigger hater, gets to speak on behalf of niggas because he's famous. Chris Rock, who came up originally, see, it's not like Chris Rock came up on some super, introspective, deep, thoughtful comedy that was just over niggas' heads. Chris Rock came up on that poured in my hand for a dime ass shit. Some good Lord, that's a lot of money. And you realize then that Chris Rock was mocking us. That was his impersonation of a poor nigger. A cheap, poor nigger. Even though, and I'm gonna get you sucker, the nigga had roles from dealing dope. But still, a nigger was being represented by that Chris Rock shtick. Remember when I said you've been bombarded through your comedy and inundated with self-black hate? It's always funny. We can call things self-black hate when we want to, but not when it's not convenient, right? We can call it self-black hate when niggas is gangbanging, or if somebody's calling a black girl a hoe in a rap song or something like that. But when it comes to literally stating and affirming that niggas ain't shit every single day of your life with every fiber of your being, both in comedy, in jest, and in reality, and then reinforcing it in your actions and how you interact with niggas, that's not seen as black self-hate. Wanting to do better than your kids, wanting your kids to not be as successful as you, and not putting them on a path to success intentionally not telling them shit so that they walk around wasting years of their life because ain't nobody ever told me nothing. That's not seen as black self-hate. It's weird how we pick and choose that. And then we act surprised when the first thing a nigga does when they start becoming successful is distance themselves from black people or shit on black people. Or we're surprised when people have turned that into a hustle. You see, when white politicians and people surrounded in white politics are very, very good at naming moments. When a white person who has used their affinity or proximity to blackness then turns around and publicly distances or shames black society in an effort to curry favor with white society, there's a phrase for that. It's called a sister soldier moment. You know that, right? When white people who normally rock with black folks suddenly turn and stab black people in the back publicly in an effort to curry favor with white society, it's called a sister soldier moment. Bill Clinton did that. Bill Clinton was, going to the Arsenio Hall show around black folks and playing saxophones and being around rappers and ingratiating himself with black culture in order to make himself seem less like the hillbilly Alabama night rider that he is in real life and make himself more hip and cool. And the second he got in office, he needed to do something. See, he had gotten too friendly with the niggas in the eyes of white folks. And Bill Clinton's real voter base at the time was what they called blue dog Democrats. Democrats that at one point had voted Republican for Ronald Reagan. They're really right-wing folks, but they're Democrat on some Democratic issues like unions, right? These people felt like he was a little too friendly with the niggas. So he needed to do something. Not something substantial, not something tangible, but something to demonstrate to white society that I don't really rock with black folks like that, right? And so what he did was he came out vehemently against the Arthur Sister Soldier for some books that she had wrote. He came out vehemently against her and chastised her and chided her. And that made white society, that little gesture made white society feel like, he's putting those niggers back in their place. Go look and see what he did to Sister Soldier. But what do you think they call it when a black person distances himself and repudiates their own black society? They call that business as usual. That's called crossing over, right? Just listen to the terms when you crossing over as if you're going through the pearly gates to whiteness. Crossing, he's crossed over. Hey, man, anybody seen Leroy? Oh, you mean Lawar. He's crossed over, right? Don't talk to him when you see him at work, right? Lawar's crossed over. We say passing as opposed to failing, right? Passing and crossing over, that shit sound like a nigga is dying and being reborn into white society. Like, y'all niggas pump these people up way too much. Just look at the terms you use. Most black people's mentality is like that book. What's that book called? The Hate You Give. Remember how the little black girl in The Hate You Give, all she would talk about was how much it sucked living on the black side of town, just how hard it was. And then she'd go visit her white friend, and even though they're together dealing with a trauma, right? She just can't help but notice how nice her white friend's house is and how much her family loves him, and just most black people want to be accepted by white society. That's how you become successful. And it's not something that black people have in our hearts because we're stupid. It's what is trained into you that's what everybody here does. You look at every other group that comes in here. They come in, they kiss white ass, white people give them a reward, and they're looking at black folks like, why can't you do that? And a lot of black folks are thinking in their mind, well, shit, we're trying. We're trying to kiss this white ass. We're trying to distance ourselves from these white people. I mean, from these black people. We're trying to distance ourselves from each other. It's like trying to play a game of tag when you're always it. So again, I'm not making an argument for cooning. Cooning is horrible and deplorable. It sets us back. The most dangerous weapon that white supremacy has is a coon. That's the T-1000. That's the Terminator. Infiltrate your ranks, get right next to you, get all the information, give it to the enemy. This is terrifying. So I'm not excusing a coon. What I'm trying to do is get people to understand the psychology of a coon and to understand where coons come from so that we can change practices that produce them at such a high rate. Cooning is damn near the black American. I don't want to say black American. It's the black way of life. That's why you have Africans that come in here, and what do they do as soon as they hit the ground? They just start cooning. I was listening to an interview with, what's her name? I almost called her Lupita Nyong'o. No, it's not Lupita Nyong'o. The girl that played Molly from Insecure. And she's Nigerian. And they asked her a question. And they said, Nigerians, do y'all think y'all better than everybody else? And the answer she gave, because they were like, why do the Nigerians act so funny when they come here to America? And the answer that she gave at the time, I didn't really fully understand what she was saying because she didn't just give a straight yes or no answer. But then I looked at it again, and the answer she gave was so poignant. She said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, so bear with me. She said something along the lines of like, Nigerians believe in doing something harder than anybody else if they find that it's successful. So if the Nigerians find that behaving a certain way in America is a way that works, they're going to try and do it harder than anybody else. What she's referring to is cooning. She's saying, hey, we came here to America and we see all these niggas, we see all the Mexicans cooning and doing little, mariachi dances for these white folks. We see the Asians out here running white folks around on rickshaws. We see the Arabs over here opening up bazaars for these white folks. They're all in the hood getting all the money. We see the niggas tap dancing. We see everybody cooning for this white man. They look like Clayton Candies. This looks like Candyland. So we're going to come in here and show more teeth and buck eyes so hard that you can see the veins in our pupils. We're going to coon harder than anybody's ever cooned before if that's what niggas is doing to get on. And they're out cooning the shit out of some of our best coons. Like, I don't like coons, you know what I'm saying? But I'll cheer for a black American coon over a Nigerian coon. Like, look at poor Terry Crews, man. Look how many dresses they done had Terry Crews wear, and how many times he done made his pectoral muscles pop and danced and cooned for these white folks and said so many controversial anti-black things. Terry Crews done went out of his way. He didn't let a white man cup his balls in front of his wife and all these things, right? He did all the Baphomet rituals and shit. And they gonna let Emmanuel Ocho from Nigeria come in here at the last minute, at the 11th hour, and out-coon this nigga. It was supposed to be Terry Crews' moment to tell white folks that black people are overreacting and lazy during the George Floyd protest on Fox News. Not Emmanuel Ocho. Who the hell is this nigga? This cooney come lately. Terry Crews been putting in good coon work for years. Years. Sorry, I got off on a tangent about domesticated versus foreign coons. I believe, if there's going to be a coon protocol, you guys got to stay in line and wait your turn. He could have talked to Terry Crews about that. You know what I'm saying? But the overall point that I'm making is everybody sees that here in America, especially, but all over the world, anywhere white folks is running things, and white folks is running things from sea to burning sea, cooning is life. So you can't sit there and wonder why we have so many sellouts. There are no consequences from the black community for selling out the black community. And there hasn't been, honestly, since Stop Snitching. Stop Snitching was like a coon embargo. Like somebody had put limits on cooning, right? Somebody had put limits. It was like the streets put sanctions on cooning. with the Stop Snitching movement. It messed up a lot of police assets and snitches and collaborators. Messed up a lot of people's cooning. Really did. It made it hard for a lot of coons. But since then, there really hasn't been a very strong anti-coon movement. There hasn't been really very many consequences for coons. There's an overload of coons, to be honest with you. There's damn near like a logjam of coons, which is why people have to coon harder out here than they had before. You can't get by with the regular old Larry Elders cooning. Where you come out every now and then, you know what I'm saying, you get out there on a little 4-panel, you know what I'm saying, you get out there and be the black friend and say, oh, what racism? No, you got to be Candace Owens. You got to coon harder nowadays. You got to be Candace Owens to where you got to be cooning when even the white folks are showing restraint. Candace Owens was cooning during the George Floyd protest. Even her white handlers. Even Candace Owens' white handlers over at Turning Point USA were like, oh, wow, is there an off button to this bitch? Calm down, Candace. Calm down now. You got to coon harder than you've ever cooned before now to make a mark. So I say all that to say when you see the average black person on the street, pay attention to their basic coon ideologies. This is regular black folks that you know and love, people in your family, friends that you ride around with voluntarily. Just listen to some of the shit they say about niggas. And then wonder how we're ever going to be able to do anything. Because this is what niggas think about niggas. And it's the same attitude that a lot of these black activists have with niggas. And that's why they're just scamming us 9 times out of 10. Jay Morrison don't respect your black ass. He knew he was going to scam you. He knew we were a bunch of unconnected, fettered, emotional people who every now and then something happens that gets us stirred up and stirred to action. And he came in and took advantage and got all them people's last dollars. And we dislike each other so much, we're low-key happy the shit happened. Like, look at them dumbass niggas. Pay attention to how many black folks work at your job. If you don't work some warehouse job, if you work in an office job, the most cutthroat environment for a black person around other black people is a corporate office job. The black codes are still open at a corporate office job, especially if you're a straight black man. Them gay blacks and them black women, you're persona non grata to them because they know they can't associate with your black male masculine ass. They can't be anywhere near associating with y'all. It's very uncomfortable to be black and happy being black and be pro-black. You got to be appropriate black around white people at work. You can walk up with a Martin Luther King mug on MLK Day and on MLK Day only, right? Let your ass walk around with that Malcolm X mug. See, hey, Malik, we saw your thermos. Is that a rapper or who's that on your cup? Yeah, you'll be over there having a conversation with HR so quick. Be labeled a black identity extremist. But you can have Pride Day all day. That's a whole nother story. But I'm going to wrap this up. This is just like a little explanation as to why most black folks are coons. It's because the environment of this country is don't trust them niggers over there. So if you want to move up in the world, you got to come off like you don't like niggers either. And it's harder to prove to white society that a nigger don't like niggers. So you got to go out of your way to show you don't like niggers. Look at all the athletes. Look at the Charles Barkleys and shit. The second they come up, they let you know, I don't like these niggas. You can almost feel the pat on the head that they're getting when they say that shit. But I'm gonna let this go. Sign it off. I can talk coons for days. So let me just go ahead and sign off, or this ends up being a 4-hour solo segment. Peace.